impact this disaster is having on some of our youngest survivors with Paolo Marchi, who's the Deputy Representative of the UNICEF Turkiye country office. He joins us now from Ankara. Welcome to the program, Paolo. We know millions of children across Turkey's quake-hit provinces have been caught up in this disaster. How many would you say are most vulnerable right now?
Thank you for contacting me and for the question. We estimate that in the area hit by the earthquake, by the tragedy, there were living around 5.4 million children. We have a rough estimate which was made by the Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs that among those 2.5 million children are considered in need of humanitarian assistance. It is an unprecedented number, and it's a very important number. So what we estimate is there are 2.5 million children in this country right now who are in need of humanitarian assistance. And we have an obligation upon us, upon all actors, to make sure that all humanitarian aid is provided to them and they are supported and they can go back to have a normal life that a child should have as soon as possible.
Yeah, there really is a vast number of children who've been affected, and sadly many of those are now orphans, having lost their parents in the disaster. What needs to be done in order to cater for their needs?
I must say that we have been working since the first day very closely with the Ministry of Family and Social Services. First of all, to make sure that we prevent the separation of children from their families whenever possible, because at times during those chaotic events, in other similar experience, we have seen that children get lost, also maybe because the parents are brought to the hospital or the child is brought to the hospital, and in the chaos, maybe children are separated. So since the first day, under the leadership of the Ministry of Family and Social Services, everything was done to prevent the separation, and then to act in order to make sure that children who have been separated were rebrought to their families and kind of like reunited with their families. Sadly, as you pointed out, there are children who have remained orphans. Thank God in Turkey we have an amazing family system in which families are very welcoming. So maybe some of those children have lost their primary caregivers, their biological parents, but they all have an aunt and a grandmother, a friend of the family who is willing and open arms to welcome them. So the first thing to do is to bring those part of the family together and to make sure that the children who have remained orphans, they can stay within their family and environment with people they know. Those children have gone through the most traumatic event on their lifetime. Additionally, if they've lost also their parents, it's key that we make sure that they get all the psychosocial support, but also that they stay within a family environment. And Turkey was already quite advanced in making sure that children without parental care are cared for in family care, in family type environment, and they can live with their families, extended families, as much as possible. So the Ministry of Family and Social Services was very quick, and we provided, as UNICEF and other actors, also the support needed. But now more support is needed. We need to make sure that they have the support, the psychosocial support that they need. As I say, they are children. They have the right to live as children. And our obligation as adults, as an organization, national and international organization, is to make sure that we can give them a normal life as soon as possible, or as normal as it can be. Because children who have lost their families and their parents, there will always be children who have not their families and their parents with them. But we can make sure that they can have family-like environment and they can go back to have a normal life as soon as possible.
As you say, Paolo, for many of these children, this earthquake disaster is the most traumatic event that they've experienced in their young lives so far. So what needs to be done to help them process this trauma?
it's key to make sure that families and parents and adults know how to communicate with them. Don't hide what happened. Don't try to make up stories. Children are intelligent. They just need to be told the stories with the right language, in the right way. Otherwise, we create additional fears, additional nightmares that they can have, because they sense if what we tell them is the truth or not. They are intelligent. They just have a different reading of things, and we need to tell them the story in a different way. With UNICEF, together with the government, with all actors, we have already made sure that we develop what we call child-friendly spaces. So they are safe and protected areas, also in the area affected by the earthquake, by the tragedy, where they can have services, they can talk, they can do their homework, they can play with other children, and they can learn how to live with that story, with this new story, with this new reality, which is now the story of their life. And it's very important that in those spaces and through other programs, we are also making sure that parents know how to communicate and adults know how to communicate, because this is the most traumatic event probably they've lived so far in their life, as many adults, for many adults as well. And we just need to make sure that we provide them the support that they need to overcome these traumatic events. And some wounds are physical, and they will be treated by the wonderful teams that are working now, and the wonderful medical care that the doctors that they've been deployed quickly by the government and by all the aid that came and international support that came. But then some of them are much longer and much less visible, but they are the traumatic and the trauma, the psychological trauma, which will stay for a long time. So as soon as we need to start to treat it now, to make sure that these children need to deal with it now. And psychosocial services, child-friendly services are key now to make sure that we can start the healing process as soon as possible.
Okay, Paolo Marchi from UNICEF Turkiye, thank you so much for joining us.